Okay, now we're going to talk about how to save our projects, but also how to render and export our composition as a video file. So just like other Adobe software, if you use the file and save method, you end up with a project file. So it'll be a file with an After Effects extension, and it has all of the information here. So if you ever have a project that you want to edit at a later time, you need to save it using File and Save. And then you can name your project. It'll have a .aep extension, and you can choose where to save it. But obviously make sure to put it on the drive if you want it for next class or for at-home use. So save. I'm going to replace it. Yep. Okay. So now exporting is a little bit different. So if we want our project to be a playable video file that we can either put into a Premiere project or put on YouTube, we need to render and then export our composition. So first, I'm going to adjust my video length because right now this is a 30-second video, which is pretty unnecessary for what I want. Let's say I want this to be an intro for a YouTube video. So I'm going to drag, you see this gray bar with the blue ends on it? I'm going to click the end, and I'm going to drag it to about 6 seconds. So if we play it back, it'll be 6 seconds long, even though our text layer is now extended to the end. But if you want, you can click and drag this so it's the same length as your composition. Okay, so once you've done that and you've checked your video and you like the length of it and you've played it back a couple times, then we can click Composition and then Add to Render Queue. So now we see this little render panel show up at the bottom. So here we have render settings and output module. I'm just going to leave this as best settings and lossless so we get the highest quality that we can. And then there's this output option here, and if I click on the name, I can change the name of my movie file and I can tell it where I want to save. So I'm just going to call this comp1 and save it to my desktop. And there's also file format options, but the only option for me right now is QuickTime. So I'm just going to click that, click Save, and then I'm going to click Render. So depending on your composition, this can take a little bit of time or it can take a long time. So if you have a big composition, you'll just want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to render it and then export it. Okay. So once that's done, I can now go to my desktop and I can see that it's exported. So I'm going to double click it and see what happens. And I get this error. It says, document cannot be opened. This file isn't compatible with QuickTime Player. So this is a known issue on Macs since the Catalina update. With the new update, basically QuickTime doesn't want to play certain older legacy formats anymore, and After Effects encodes the videos in such a way that QuickTime is unhappy with it. But we can fix this. So if your video plays back fine, then don't worry about these next steps. Otherwise, we're going to use a tool called Adobe Media Encoder. This is a tool that lets us re-encode videos to ensure that they're in the right format to be played on different devices. So I'm going to go down here where I've already opened Adobe Media Encoder. And I'm going to go up to File, Add Source, and I'm going to click on my video and open it here. Okay, so now there's these settings up here. So I want to export it so it's encoded for QuickTime. I'm just going to leave these settings the same. So I'm just going to hit the play button. Now it's going to re-encode it and it'll play it back here. So we can see it playing, so that's a good sign. So then when it's done, it'll say status done over here. And I'm going to go back, and now I have another file, comp1_1, and we can see by the icon that this looks like QuickTime is actually going to play it since it shows a little preview. So I'm going to click, double click, and now it actually plays properly. So an alternative method, if you don't have the media encoder installed, is to bring the video into Premiere and export it. So yeah, I'll just do that too. So I'm going to open Premiere. Okay, so if I'm trying to fix this using Premiere, then I can click New Project, just hit OK. Oh, unless it's going to overwrite something, then in that case rename it, Untitled New, hit OK. And then I'm going to go up to File, Import, and I'm going to pick my broken file just to show you how to fix it using Premiere. So it'll import, and then I'll drag it into the timeline, just like we've normally done with Premiere. And then look, so now we just have this as a Premiere project. And so I can go to File, Export, Media. You can change the format. I'm going to do QuickTime. And I'm going to save it to the desktop. Comp1, and I'll just add Premiere to the name. And then I'll click Export. Let it do its thing there. Let's see if that worked. Yep, so that worked too. So both methods work. So if you encounter the issue, just use Adobe Media Encoder or Premiere, whichever you prefer.